think with that, we're going to move into the last part of this discussion, which is there's one more presenter that I haven't introduced. If you all look down at your name tag, you can introduce them to yourself. We talked about broad collaboration. And for those online who are curious about how many people are actually in this room, yeah, we've got a pretty active group here. From yesterday's presentations, amazing seeing the variety of work being done. So at this point, we're going to open this up. We do have a couple national program leads currently viewing us online. If you have questions for the IPM coordinators, those are great too, but I'd also like to open this up to if you have thoughts on IPM in the southern region, IPM in the country, and how IPM coordinators, how the IPM centers can help advance IPM in the region, this is your chance. We have some things coming up soon that hopefully in the near future we will see the next crop protection and pest management RFA come out. And in that there will be the next extension implementation program, some opportunities to fine-tune our programs and maybe pick up some additional things. So we've got a microphone here. You need to use it so we can catch the people who are out there online.
You need to use it.
I need to use it.
Bill Donahue.
Here I thought I was using my extension voice enough. I guess not. So,
here's a question for all the IPM coordinators that presented, and I believe Texas kind of let off a little bit of this. A lot of the traditional funding in the past for IPM has come from the federal government, but as those dollars have shrunk, you've had to come up with novel ways to find funding to support these programs. So I'm just kind of curious as we move forward to the future, and there's a chance that these federal dollars, state dollars are going to be current, but they're not going to increase. What are some other novel ways that we could be looking at to find sources of funding that are going to help with IPM implementation?
Well, I'll briefly address it's a lot of what I went over in my presentation, but Texas has a very large program, has since it began. We've had to be very innovative in how we fund these programs. As you mentioned, federal funds have shrunk. Our group, our IPM agents are highly valued in the communities. And so we do garnish a lot of funding through the state money. And that's gone a long way supporting things. But then again, it's not enough. Each agent does a lot of activities to fund their own programs. And again, a lot of that may be research-based, where they'll write grants. We do a lot of commodity board type funding. Bring this money in, and those types of monies are very applied, directed toward what's going to benefit their community and their clientele in their area. They'll help conduct, let's say they may work with specialists, somebody like Dr. Woodward, to conduct these studies. And that kind of money goes a long way toward driving programs. They'll test products, so they may look at doing an insecticide or a fungicide test. They'll look at, and that will be funded through various industry support, and that way they'll know what these products work in these situations, these don't, or how they can use them in different situations. We've had some people become very innovative, and these are some of the ones that have gotten into the soil sample. You may not think of soil fertility as being IPM, because there may not necessarily be a pest involved, but plant health is IPM. And how we use fertilizers, whether it's too much or too little, impacts what happens later in the season. So we have a number of agents that have huge soil sampling programs. They'll offer information on deep sampling nitrogen or sulfur or other minerals, or they'll even look at sampling for nematodes and nematode-prone areas. So these kind of programs have been very successful. They bring money into the program, and they drive our activities. The clientele love it. You know, this is the kind of thing that the growers look at. They get so much benefit out of it, and we get so much praise out of what they do. It's been very beneficial to us.
Two or three things come to mind. First of all, the leveraging of other monies always helps. You know, in our state that we don't have an IPM budget that comes from the state. We have to generate that within our own budget or from EIP. So when that our regular budgets come along, and going back to what I said in my talk earlier, is that a lot of the work we do is IPM, and we need to claim that, and we need to report that as such. That helps because then the feds are looking at this from the standpoint of, wow, they're doing a lot with a little, and that's true. But it's because we're using other funds to do that. Now, you're looking for other sources. That's what your question is about. And I think that the commercial companies, seed, chemical, whatever, have been very generous with many of our agents in the past, helping them with local projects. So that's a source of funding, but you know, that's not an endless source of funding. That's not a big pot either, because everybody wants part of that. But the other part of this is that when the agents are demonstrating, for example, what they have done in field days and things of that nature, they get a lot of support from local banks, the car dealership, the implement dealer, as well as the industry, the seed or chemical industry that helps out too. But as far as going out and looking at other funding, yes, for projects as we do with, as was mentioned, looking at evaluating products and sorts of things, yeah, that's a source of money. And it's not a lot at any one place, any one time. It sort of adds up.
Other questions?
Thank you, Joe. So the title is All Aboard Moving IPM Toward a Collaborative Future. So are there opportunities for collaboration, you know, across states or across regions to increase funding or increase support?
I believe there are opportunities, and that, you know, one of the things that really struck me, what Clayton said, is that even though we are, in a sense, with the new EIP program competing with each other, we still get together and share ideas and talk. And some of the additional projects that have been funded have been multi-state. So sometimes IPM can support the identification of issues and the identification of needs, and you know, we're all competing with limited funds to have that program in our state, but it doesn't prevent us from going for other federal grant programs and things like that in a multi-state manner, in which they really encourage. And in fact, you will get, you know, points because you're doing multi-state some of the other programs. So that really struck me. I guess the other thing is the EIP program in Oklahoma maybe shrunk a little bit, but the overall federal funding's been pretty flat. But we have all of our county agents, our county educators that were agriculture, now are half-time agriculture, half-time 4-H, so they have even less time to be able to, you know, really work with producers in that county, and we're even seeing budget issues come on board and maybe shrinking even more. So those are some of the challenges I think we need to face forward, at least, we have to face going forward. If we're really dealing with less state support for extension in general and trying to come up with new ways to still be effective.
I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you very much. My question is partly that I struggle with this myself. Social media. We talk about everybody says we're increasing our social media, And I go, okay, we've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, I have a Twitter account, I'm not a tweeter, personally, so, it's a comment about not eating crop diseases at 5 a.m. things like that. So, my question I struggle with is what's the audience we're trying to target with this? So when I think about IPM agents, I think about extension specialists, I think about the close interactions with the growers in the community. And so if you think of that as a vendor agreement, it's a very tight circle. And you've got good communication going on because of the long-term relationships. Then you have to branch out to the state support. And that's a bigger circle. It doesn't overlap as much as the local then circle with the growers, and especially in a state like Texas, where 87% of the population is in urban environments. It's really a different circle shift than in other states where it's more 50-50. And then you reach out and you've got to go to the federal level, that's yet another circle. And, social media is sort of a way to put information out there. When you think about information overload, it's only effective if somebody bothers to pick it up. And how do you target it so it gets picked up by the circles that you're trying to influence for support and for increased funding? So that's sort of my general observation and question to the group.
Well, to be honest, when we were talking about social media, I was thinking about how to get someone to pay attention to, it's like you get the information overload. I get so much stuff that's not relevant to what I'm working with. So I think it would be a good thing, and you heard it here this first. I came up with it. If you could have, let's say, if each person that was in that social media group, that if you sign up to be on a Facebook or Instagram page, that if you have an interest level in certain things that you feel like, so that once an alert went out, you would get like a coded thing that went with it that gave, say, from a blue to an orange. Blue means it's probably not relevant to what I feel like. Red means you've got to read it. And I think some type of alert system that you, when you look at it, it goes, this is something that's more relevant to me. This is something I could probably not look at. So you're only looking at the stuff that I think is relevant to you. People need to know, differentiate these things as they come across. So in information overload, you've got a way to say this is important, this isn't. That's just something that I've thought about. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. So one of it is that we have the overload. That was just mentioned too, that if we don't put anything out there, then we're limiting ourselves as far as the information getting out. So I think the approach and philosophy I have is that we'd be better to put it out several different ways, that somebody will get it from a shotgun approach, somebody will get it some sort of way.
I really thought about using social media and tried to figure out which ones I thought would be most effective, and I really struggled with figuring out how Facebook would be of value for the information I want to put out. So I haven't set up a Facebook page, but I did decide to start doing Twitter, and I'm kind of selective on the people that I know, or I can at least look at the profiles and know that the people that are following me are interested in the topics that I'm going to be sending out information. And I found it very useful to make sure when I do put a Twitter out to link it to something that is relevant information that they can go to, so I at least know that if they're going to that, if they're going to go to that website, that's information that will be useful and relevant to them. But I don't have, I think my Twitter account has maybe 350 followers, but someone pointed out to me and said, that's not very many, and I pointed out back to him, that's 350 more than you have, because he knows the Twitter.
It's your turn.
Exactly.
In this particular in agriculture, we're always talking about contacts. Actually, it's not the number of contacts, it's the impact of those contacts. If you're impacting consultants or growers with large acreage, just one can make all the difference in the world. And that's highly relevant. And as far as social media goes, it's really going to depend. You got to be flexible on your and suit the needs of your clientele. These urban settings are they're going to be more inclined to use things like Facebook, follow Twitter, etc. Areas where you have a lot of young growers, they're going to follow that kind of thing as well. Where you have an area with an older group of clientele, they're not going to do it. And you're still going to have to write your newsletter and get it out to them that way. So you have to use the tool that fits that target that you're looking at. So it can be fairly complex in that regard.
I'll make a comment on that too. Part of your question is that what we're all talking about is, I could put something out on Twitter, but if I only got 10 followers, I'm not reaching anybody unless it's 10 important people like Dave's talking about. But where our biggest issue in the state right now is we're getting the information out to our clientele, to the growers, to the consultants, and they're utilizing it. We're making an impact. But, especially in your role, where we're having trouble is the people in our legislature who are funding our institutions aren't getting those Twitter messages. They're not getting it through Facebook. They're not following it because they may not necessarily work in agriculture. So our big challenge is how do we get the message of our impacts through that to those people, the important people in the state, people with money, and that's where we've been working with our IT and with our communications department to try to help us basically reach out to those people, on whether it be through Facebook, Instagram, and get several ways to really kind of make sure we get our message out to those people. That's a big challenge.
Hello, Lorna Nissen from the University of Georgia. I have a big question, especially for the students that are here. We talked about collaboration, and when I did my undergraduate work, I was a huge supporter and well-educated IPM at the Griffith campus. And so I know I'm doing more research, but the question is, or the observation is, I heard about consultants and the collaboration between consultants and also people in traditional roles. So, but my question is, with reduced funding that's coming down the pike and continue to promote IPM, how can we encourage these students here to get involved in these type of career possibilities? How do you see that future? What can you give us for support so that we can be continuing these programs and promote them and make it better?
I guess I'll try and answer it in this way. I know that some of my colleagues, one of my colleagues has 6 or 7 graduate students that are working in biological control and different cropping systems. And not all of them are interested in going to the academia, especially after they see all the paperwork he has to fill out for grants and stress that's involved with that isn't as appealing. But every one of his students could be hired by a commercial company almost as soon as they're ready to graduate. There's that much demand for people with field experience and some of that training. And I guess I keep my fingers crossed that if we're providing balanced information on what IPM can do, some of that's going to diffuse. And I know that, sometimes the business models are looking at different bottom lines than maybe what some of my guys look at. I believe that the bottom line for a producer is the most important thing. But if you work at a company that may not, there's other competing, there's competition in what their goals and objectives are. But I still think it's important that everybody that we train that's going to be working in agriculture has a good understanding of what integrated pest management is. I think that's still our responsibility to make sure that they get that. But their careers may not go into academia, they may be going into the commercial field, where it seems like there's a big demand for that. We can't even keep some of our new professors around long enough before they get snatched up by, other companies. So I guess that's what we're thinking about.
I have two questions. One is a follow-up on Mary's question earlier about coordinating IPM activities and programs among states on a regional scale. And Joe, I guess this is a question for you. What is the role of the IPM centers in coordinating and promoting regional IPM efforts?
Oh boy. We do have that role, exactly that role. So for the regional IPM centers for coordinating all these activities, I talk to these guys all the time. There's a technical working group called SARA 03, the Southern IPM Center coordinators. We check in with them. We also look at all the people being funded through crop protection pest management. So all the applied research and development program awardees, we see what they're doing, where they're headed with it. Through our enhancement grants, we look at what they're doing with it. And between myself and Denisha Seth Carley and some of our other staff, we're kind of making the rounds to all the different states. Unfortunately, the South is a rather large region. One road trip through the South to go visit all the main campuses and experiment stations, because a lot of us are not on the main campus. Yeah, there's not enough time nor money to make that happen. So we do a lot through finding out where people are going, looking at what they're doing, and I'm amazed the number of times I get to have the conversation of, hi, have you met this group? They're working on bed bug techniques and how to control that. This group has bed bug training sessions that they want to give across the South. Have you two met? Sometimes the answer is yes. We already know them. We're working together. It's great. It's wonderful. A lot of times I sometimes wonder why the communication isn't there. But it was a pretty clever thing the way that NIFA set up the crop protection and pest management. The regional coordination programs are specifically set to facilitate these communications and also communicate outside the region, because we still haven't figured out how to tell the pests stop at the wall of Texas and Oklahoma, and just keep everything up in the Dakotas if they would. That doesn't happen. So it's a heck of a job trying to keep track of everyone and what they're doing. But that's actually my call to all of you. You all, at one point or another, have probably seen me at a meeting. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination I'm intimidating. By all means, email me, lostforest@uga.edu. You got an idea, question, want to know who else is working on it, I'll do what I can to connect you in to anybody else. And if I don't know the answer, I'll find you an answer.
One other question.
One of the things that I think is not understood is that the centers do not dictate to the states what they do. We basically tell them what's going on, and as he said, is great coordinators. They they connect people, they get all that together, and so that's really their important role to me as an IPM coordinator, is that I need to know who else is doing it. Now, when we get together at our annual meetings and then by email often, I know what they're doing. They know what I'm doing. And so they said, you know, I've got this great idea. Why don't we do whatever? And unless there's just a massive amount of money involved that we can't handle, or time that we can't handle, we're going to say yes, and we're going to coordinate, and we're going to work together. That's never been an issue, you know.
One more coordination sort of question. Here we are at a meeting of plant pathologists, right? The weed scientists are meeting somewhere else. The entomologists are meeting somewhere else. Clayton, you brought this up in your talk. How can we increase the interaction and the coordination for the purposes of IPM between the weed scientists, the entomologists, and the pathologists? If the panel members could address that.
Well, I'll give you an additional part of that. The PD meeting that the regional IPM center is supposed to put on, that gets hard to coordinate because the number of things funded through AARDP and enhancement grants and other things, I can't say, oh, you plant pathologists, you all just need to come to the Southeastern Branch ESA meeting. It's a nice venue. It's in Memphis this year. I need you to show up and present to a bunch of entomologists about your pathology. So I even have trouble with that. And
I think we've got to reach out if you're in a specific discipline and you're trying to put, at least in my perspective, you reach out and you talk to at least the weed scientists that I'm thinking about in Virginia. It's like, what can I do for you as far as we've got this EIPM proposal I'm putting in. Is there something in here that would help your programs that you would like some help with to get the message out across about herbicide resistance crops and developing a herbicide resistance program? You might be able to hire an intern or hire somebody that kind of handles this for you and just try to come up with an idea and talk to them. And you know, because I'm new to this, I'm sitting here listening to all these things, I'm just kind of soaking it in. Soaking it in like a sieve. Most of the time my brain's like a sieve, and I'm lucky if it stays wet after this is all over. But I'm trying to figure out ways to engage these different groups. The entomologists are heavily engaged already. The pathologists are somewhat engaged, and we've got some, you know, I got one slide from a weed scientist, but, you know, we didn't see anything from the corn and soybean and cotton or peanut things. And certainly with the herbicide resistant stuff that's going on and the new technology there, we need some education and programming. And we need boots on the ground and eyes and ears, you know, to help identify these, you know, problems across the state. The industry, the consumer industry typically does a lot of that and helps work with weed scientists on these educational programs. And there's certification programs that if you're going to use this technology, you've got to go through this program. So the industry does a little bit of that. So it's a little bit different, but I think it's not, if that's a one-shot deal. You go to class, you put down your name and or whatever, and you get signed off that yes, I can use this technology, but there's no follow-up, there's no continuation of the educational program, and I think that's what I'm talking about. It's like during the growing season, a continuous update and monitoring of the situation, and just reaching out to them.